here on game week for TCU. Second time they're going to be traveling down to Fort Worth in the Coach Prime area. This has got to be the first time they've played somewhere on the road twice in this era, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
This is going to be a different test. One good thing is that there's not a dual threat quarterback they have to face this week. And I would say, and we'll get into TCU as we always do as we get deeper in the week, that if Colorado's secondary was playing up to our expectations in the preseason of what that group was expected to be, this would actually probably be a pretty good matchup. So that's the group that I look to this week. That the offense needs to get going, but defensively, it's that secondary is going to be tested.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's nice it's not a dual threat, but you got maybe the best passing quarterback in the conference now against a cornerback group that's not playing very well. And I know you and I talk about this, but PFF grades, you take them for what they're worth. And Coach Prime, he's like, I don't even know where they're from, or I don't know what those are, but. I wrote something yesterday. I mean, the PFF grades, there's 58 corners in this conference that have played at least 20% of the coverage snaps, and the Buffs have three of the 5 bottom-rated players in this conference as far as corners. And Teion Parks is down there, and Preston Hodge is down there, and Makari Vickers, and DJ McKinney, who we thought coming into the year, like, that's a first-round pick type of guy. He's in the 40s, and so. I think that's been the biggest surprise to me is guys like McKinney and Hodge have not had the years we thought they were going to have. I think we knew that second corner, who knows what's going to happen there, but those other two guys have not played as well as we thought either.
Coach Prime did say that 95% of corners play not to get beat, whereas just 5% are out there trying to make a play. Obviously, Deion Sanders was that 5%, and Travis Hunter was that 5%. We thought McKinney was going to be that guy. It hasn't been to that 5% in terms of his play, like you mentioned there.
Yeah, I would lump all Colorado's corners right now in that 95% is they're just trying not to get beaten. It's interesting because I'm looking at all these numbers yesterday that I wrote about corners, and they rank I think they're second in the conference in pass breakups. So they're making some plays, and McKinney and Hodge are both up there. Who's the other one? There's a safety. I think Statmeyer's up there as well. So they're making some plays, but, man, they're getting beat a lot. And I think of bigger concern, maybe, or same amount of concern, but is the penalties. I mean, there's a lot of penalties on this group. They've already got as many pass interference penalties called against them as they had all of last season. So, there's a lot of things that this group's not doing. They got to get better. They're going to get tested heavily, not only this week, but you got Rocco Becht coming up. You got Devin Dampier of Utah. Sam Levitt of Arizona State down the road. Noah Fafita, who's playing better this year at Arizona. So you got some passing quarterbacks that are going to test you.
With Colorado's offense, Coach Prime basically said that he needs these guys to play like their careers depend on it. That it doesn't feel like, again, playing to that standard that they're trying to set here. And again, we've gone back to talking about the fact that this is a football team that is more talented than 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And you can tell that that's frustrating Coach Prime right now.
Yeah, and he didn't want to single out positions, but at the same time, I think you asked about the offensive line. He goes, look, offensive line is not a problem. Running the ball and pass protecting is not a problem. So you take all that together and say, well, it's quarterback and receivers have got to play better, right? Because it sounds like they're okay with what's going on with the run game. And the offensive line, frankly, they've been a lot better. And they could be better, obviously. But, I mean, pass blocking, the protection's been there. This team has underachieved. There's no question. And he's right when he says, look, he was two one-score losses basically to ranked teams, and we're right there. You win one of those, and it changes the narrative a little bit about this program. You win both of them, and you're sitting at 4-1 and looking pretty good. So there's things they got to fix. They are right there, in my opinion. But there's a lot of things you still got to fix to get over that hump.
We saw Tawfiq Bayard get up in front of the defense after Saturday's loss and say, look, you guys are all wearing full pads. We're going at it tomorrow, really taking leadership of that group. And it's probably helped that his play has been really stellar here as of late. And I know Jordan Seaton is he's a very vocal guy. He's a good leader. He's still an offensive lineman. It's like they're still kind of looking for that leadership out of other guys offensively, it feels like.
Yeah, it's got to come from the quarterback, I think that's the key. It's got to come from, especially the guy that's a fifth-year senior. It's got to come from him. We've been hearing good things about Caden Salter. I don't know if we saw it as much in the second half the other day, but I think it's got to come from him. I mean, a Draylon Miller. It's got to be from him. There's some guys now that got to step up, and Jordan Seaton's a good start, but I think there's other people that need to step up. I would guess Xavier Hill. I know he's not the most vocal guy, but he's a tough guy that I think people would listen to. But there's probably a lot of guys that got to step up.
Yeah, we got a chance to talk to London Merritt for the first time today, and I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but those IMG guys come in looking the part. I mean, he could pass as a fifth-year senior right now. He's so well put together physically, and that's allowed him to get on the field early, and same with Alex McPherson, who he came in from IMG with. That's been one of the stories that's been fun to follow early this season. And, he talked about kind of liking the fact that you're not treated like a freshman under Coach Prime at Colorado, that they brought you in to be a professional. And, again, it's keep recruiting IMG Academy, because if that's the philosophy, that's the program that's going to have kids with the right mindset coming in.
Yeah, and look, when you don't play like a freshman, it's easy to not be treated like a freshman, and he has not played like a freshman, he or Alex. And I mean, he made a few plays. I don't know how many times it was the other day, but there were a lot of times that 44 popped the other night against BYU. You're like, whoa, London Merritt's in there. And, I didn't see Alex McPherson as much against BYU make those plays, but he had in the previous few weeks. And so those guys don't look like freshmen physically. They're not playing like freshmen. And I still go back to the Alamo Bowl when, Ben Finnesseth and others were talking about those two guys really were, making an impression in bowl practices. And they were supposed to be finishing up their senior year. I mean, they were in the middle of their senior year of high school, and they're making an impression on a team that was one win away from the Big 12 championship. So that tells you a lot about what they were doing back then.
Seems like kids grow up faster these days, doesn't it? Yeah. I just think back to like my friends group when we were that age, and there's no way I would have been having that type of maturity.
Right, and Pat Shermer talked about Julian Lewis earlier this year. He goes, there's no way I could think of myself back then being ready to play Power 5 quarterback. And so, and even though we haven't seen Julian as much, we know he's super talented. And, you look at these kids nowadays, it's like, they're more physically ready to go than they were in our age.
So before covering today's press conference, you got locked trapped in an elevator here at CU. How was that experience for you?
Luckily, it was only about 20 minutes, but it was a little bit of a surprise. And coming up from the parking garage and just wanting to go to the press conference, and all of a sudden the elevator just stopped, and I get the automated thing comes on and says, "This elevator is out of service." I'm like, "Well, it better not be." So fire department had to come get me, and I walked out, and there was a fire truck and a police car, and I was like, "Oh, I guess that's for me." So not what I expected today.
What's funny is I was going to take the elevator up, and it just wouldn't come. And I'm like, I had to give up at some point. And little did I know Brian Howell was stuck up in that elevator.
Yeah, it was my fault, and I didn't even know where I was going to come out of, and they opened it up, and I was on the second floor. So I was just glad to get out of there.
All right, well, always eventful times around here, the University of Colorado. We'll be back with more analysis after Wednesday's practice.